My name is Celeste, and I'm 28 years old. But the story of how my parents erased me from their world began long before I had a company, a lawyer, or even a sense of who I was supposed to become. It began with a quiet understanding that in my family, love was conditional, measured not by effort or loyalty, but by numbers, outcomes, and the perception of success. The day my parents gave my sister $4 million was the day I realized I was no longer their daughter in the way that mattered. Of course, they never announced it directly. Families rarely say, "You no longer belong." They smile, they toast, they hand out champagne, and they disguise rejection as motivation. It happened at their anniversary party. A celebration so polished it felt artificial, like a luxury advertisement. Crystal glasses lined the tables, golden lights reflected off the marble floor, and relatives I barely spoke to hugged each other for photos as if we were a perfect family. I stood near the balcony, watching the city lights flicker below, pretending I was calm. My sister Amelia stood under the chandelier, radiant and confident. She had always been the favorite. She had the right kind of ambition, the right kind of confidence, and the right kind of results. When my father tapped his spoon against the glass, the sound cut through the room, sharp and commanding. People turned toward him, smiling, ready for another speech about family legacy. He praised Amelia's discipline, her business sense, her drive. My mother nodded proudly beside him. Then he said it. They were gifting her $4 million to expand her business empire. $4 million. The number didn't feel real. It felt like a misprint on reality itself. People gasped, clapped, and rushed toward her. Someone spilled champagne in excitement. My aunt hugged her. My cousin recorded on her phone. I stood frozen, smiling with effort, feeling a hollow ache spread through my chest. Then my mother turned to me. She wore that thin, controlled smile she always used when she wanted to hurt without raising her voice. "Celeste," she said, loud enough for nearby relatives to hear, "you should learn something from your sister. Not everyone is meant to succeed." Laughter followed, awkward and forced. Someone coughed. Someone looked away. My ears rang. I felt 12 years old again, standing in the kitchen while my report card was compared to Amelia's like evidence in a trial. I nodded. I smiled. I swallowed everything. Later that night, after the guests left and the music stopped, my father said the words that would follow me for years. "You were always our biggest disappointment." He didn't shout. He didn't get angry. He said it the way someone states a fact about weather or mathematics. Final. Cold. Certain. I left their house numb. The silence inside me felt physical, like carrying a weight on my chest. For weeks, I replayed every decision I had ever made. My failed startup, my debt, my wrong turns, my risks. I dissected myself with cruelty. I had struggled, yes, but I had never stopped trying. I had never stopped building, never stopped believing I could create something meaningful. None of that mattered. In my parents' world, results defined worth, and my results labeled me a failure. Then came the final blow. Months later, a drunk family friend mentioned that my parents had updated their will. Curiosity turned to dread. Dread turned to confirmation. I was removed completely. My sister inherited everything. When I confronted my mother, hoping for some explanation, she didn't even pretend regret. "We invest in winners," she said. "Life is about returns." That sentence rewired something inside me. Pain turned into resolve. If they measured human value in success, then success would become my language. I cut every financial tie, every emotional dependency. I took humiliating freelance jobs, worked nights, rebuilt my skills, endured rejection after rejection. There is a special loneliness in starting from nothing while everyone assumes you deserve nothing. Years blurred into effort. Effort turned into obsession. I stopped chasing validation. I focused on construction not just of a career, but of a self that could not be dismantled by their judgment. I learned to negotiate, to lead, to endure pressure without breaking. I built quietly, relentlessly. While Amelia's empire grew with family funding and applause, I built in obscurity. Every small victory felt monumental. Every contract felt like survival. Every failure taught me resilience. 3 years passed. 3 brutal, transformative years. Then on an ordinary Tuesday morning, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. Almost. Hello, Celeste. This is your father's lawyer. My pulse stumbled. The party. The smirk. The will. The word disappointment. Why would my father's lawyer call me now? Your father has requested that we contact your legal representative. There are developments he believes you should be aware of. Developments. The word tightened the air around me. I stared out my office window at the city. My heart hammered. I had rebuilt my life without them. Whatever this was, it wasn't random, and beneath confusion and old pain, I felt something unexpected. Anticipation, like standing on a fault line before the ground shifts. Within an hour, my lawyer Daniel called back. This is unusual, he said. Unusual was an understatement. My father hadn't reached out to apologize or reconnect. He reached out because of me, because of something I built, because of something he had just discovered. The irony was suffocating. For years, my existence had been irrelevant. Now it was legally significant. Daniel explained that my father had learned about my company through investor briefings and business reports. The startup world that once rejected me had become my proving ground. I had built a data security firm from nothing. Borrowed desks, sleepless nights, rejection letters, obsession. The company grew quietly, then rapidly, then explosively. Major contracts, international partnerships, recognition I never chased. I never told my parents, never sought their approval. My success was not a performance for them. It was survival, but success travels. It surfaces in rooms that once dismissed you. My father heard the numbers, revenue, valuation, market influence, metrics he worshipped then. Daniel said the words that explained everything. Your father believes your business trajectory introduces complications to his estate. Structure. Complications. I was no longer an embarrassment. I was a variable, a disruption. The failure had outgrown the system that erased her. What stunned me wasn't the legal maneuvering. It was the psychological truth beneath it. He didn't reach out because he missed me. He reached out because reality contradicted his judgment. Daniel told me my father repeated one phrase again and again. That's impossible. The words didn't bring joy. They brought clarity. For years, success equaled worth in my family. Now success proved their miscalculation. Days later, we had a formal meeting. Walking into that glass conference room felt like stepping into a distorted memory. My father looked older, smaller. Pride still clung to him like armor. My mother's expression was controlled, but her eyes betrayed tension. Amelia sat beside them, poised, but unsettled. No apologies. Only legal language, alignment, strategy, family, considerations. But beneath the polished words was disbelief. My father studied me like a contradiction made flesh. The disappointment he had named now sat across from him as a founder, a leader, a woman no paperwork could erase. Finally, he asked one word. How? It was the question he never asked when I failed, struggled, rebuilt. How did I survive exclusion? Humiliation? Rejection? The answer was simple. I stopped measuring myself by your definitions. I stopped waiting for permission to be worthy. I stopped believing your verdicts were reality. The meeting ended without reconciliation, but something irreversible happened. The hierarchy fractured. Their wealth no longer towered over me. Their judgment no longer defined me. For the first time, they were the ones confronting uncertainty. And I learned something powerful. The most powerful revenge is not destruction. It is transformation so complete that those who underestimated you are forced to question reality.